and I will answer the question as we move forward. Okay, so I think we are live already. So welcome to the information session, everyone. My name is Raja Iqbal. I am the Chief Data Scientist and one of the lead instructors at Data Science Dojo. This information session is about our Large Language Models Bootcamp. We have another bootcamp that is one of the longest running bootcamps in industry on data science and machine learning. But this information session is for the Large Language Models Bootcamp. So we have been around for quite some time. A lot of graduates, right? So 11,000 plus graduates, a combination of our enterprise and trainings and our in-person trainings. And all of these are actually interactive, live trainings, whether through Zoom calls or in-person on-site. We've been around for quite some time, perhaps depending on which company you are coming from. I'm very, very sure that if you are one of the companies in technology, someone from your company has actually attended our training. I'm pretty confident. More than 3,000 companies globally. So let's actually talk about this particular bootcamp, the Large Language Models Bootcamp. So the story actually goes like this. Last year, actually early last year, as OpenAI launched ChatGPT, the APIs already existed, but the buzz was created when OpenAI actually launched ChatGPT, and suddenly people realized how incredibly powerful these tools are. Around the same time, while everyone was using it for ChatGPT for some basic social media post and code correction and code generation and all of that, companies they started realizing, and our services side, we have a services arm as well. So on the services side, people started reaching out to us and they started asking, hey, can you build us something that is similar to that? And then we started building solutions. And as we started building solutions, we realized while using ChatGPT and perhaps building a model that works only on a single PDF or a few PDFs or maybe a bunch of PDFs, documents or some text documents, some Word documents, it may sound very easy, but I call it deceptively easy. Because when we started deploying things for real customers, we started realizing that costs would be a concern. We don't get billed by ChatGPT when we use it, but in reality, customers, when they're using it, there's a cost associated with using this infrastructure, right? So how do you actually worry about that? Then, well, what if you have a lot of data? How do you actually overcome what we call the context window? Then there are regulatory challenges, and there is proprietary data. You work in a domain which has some constraints, healthcare, right? So you cannot give medical advice. Legal, can you give legal advice or not? Your data can be proprietary. Are you accidentally exposing your some proprietary data or maybe some PII data? Then what kind of application is it, right? So is there in latency? Do you want to do offline processing using OpenAI or Llama or any of the large language models or generative AI? Or is it interactive application? Data governance, and let's call it data and AI governance. So how do you take care of the general governance and also the quality aspect of it, and making sure that the data is once again data governance actually a very broader term. I mean, quality is there, controls is there, access controls and availability and all of that. So how do you do that? How do you handle that AI governance, whether using open source or closed source model? your application may give an answer now and may give a different answer in different phrasing it differently, or may get a completely different answer, maybe factually wrong answer in a different instance of exactly the same question. How do you work around that? How do you evaluate? How do you prevent hallucinations? How do you deal with outdated knowledge? How do you evaluate? And how do you create prompts that remain under control? All of this, we realize that, well, it is hard. And that's when last September, a year ago, the bootcamp was born. And to date, maybe there are more bootcamps emerging. We were the world first bootcamp in the world, and we still in this format, in a 40-hour format. We are the first one. Even now, I don't think there are any bootcamps that are teaching everything in the ecosystem, or a bit of complete ecosystem, giving you a sense of everything. I will show you how the curriculum goes. Basically, it is a comprehensive curriculum. It is not only covering, hey, this is a course on embeddings, or this is a course on LangChain, or this is a course on vector databases. We cover everything in a single one bootcamp. All the mainstream large language model tools, we teach them, and in many cases, most of the mainstream companies in the space, they are partnering with us to deliver this bootcamp. Hands-on exercises, I will show you an overview of the learning platform. How do we handle it? It's not some talk. It is basically talk and practice, talk and practice, and talk and practice. So everything that we teach, there is a corresponding practical aspect of what we teach as well. And then at the end of the week-long training, it's a 5-day training, 40-hour training. And by the end of the training, you will actually leave with your own working large language models application, and you will understand the entire ecosystem. We have this time around in the coming bootcamp, we will be partnering with vector databases in VV8, Symbol, domain-specific model union, and deployment and operationalization of model arises more around guardrails, observability, and so on. RunPod is in the space of GPU compute, LangChain, call it an orchestration tool. So we are partnering with these companies that will help us actually bring this bootcamp in. And in many cases, we actually subsidize the infrastructure cost, it is free for you when you come in, for instance, right? So when you do the fine tuning, exercise, the fine tuning exercise is done on RunPod's GPU cluster. We give you when we do that Llama 2 7 billion 4-bit quantized model. When we show you how to fine tune it, we give you these clusters that you can use for GPU compute. So I will explain all of this in detail, but basically when you register for the bootcamp, you don't have to worry about anything. Hey, I don't have GPUs on my laptop. No worries. We take care of them. Hey, my laptop is not fast enough. Can it run, even exercises that don't involve GPUs? Yeah, don't worry about it, because we have everything in our learning platform. It is embedded in our learning platform, so you don't have to worry about any of that. So I will show you the infrastructure in a bit, and we have partners. So these are our partners for the next bootcamp. Sorry, this is a typo. It should be October. Our next bootcamp is happening from October, from October 21st to 25th. But in the past, we have had other partners as well. I mean, depending upon their availability and all of that, partners actually remain involved. But these are our partners for the next bootcamp. So what we do in the bootcamp is we do not actually. I have been doing data science, machine learning, AI, call it, you give it any name, analytics, big data for quite some time. I've spent quite a bit of time on that. One thing that I realize as a practitioner now is that teaching people just the technology um, without showing them what can be done and what could be the business challenges down the road, that is a wrong way to actually teach. To that end, we have guest talks from real case studies in industry as well. So we will have, mix things. We learn the techniques, we apply those techniques, and then we have a talk that from industry that actually encompasses how certain things were done at a company. So we mix and match. It's the technology, the application, and the business side of it. And more importantly, the real challenges. Real challenges are much more than technology challenges. I mean, there are challenges. There are challenges that are that can be cultural challenges. There can be, maybe your organization is not ready, your data is not ready, you don't have the proper data governance in place, you don't have the skills, and your customers don't want to use it. And so getting that perspective, it turns you into a more well-rounded individual. So we'll talk about all of those aspects as well, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you an idea of the what we teach in this boot camp, overall end to end. Let me actually do this. Yeah, I think since there are some questions, let me actually take a few more slides, and I will actually come back. So what we'll do is we'll look at a few things. So the first thing is, if you look at this in LLM application, it is much more than ChatGPT makes it look very easy. Google Bard, Gemini, the Bing Chat. I mean, the interfaces that are available to public, they make it look deceptively easy. In reality, in LLM application, when you build an enterprise application, the enterprise application, there are different components to it. And you will be actually, for those of you who have never done it, you will be surprised actually that a large language model is a very small component of this entire application. It's a very small component. We start with, either a deployed LLM or we deploy it ourselves. It could be a closed source LLM like GPT-4, GPT-4 Omni, or it could be an open source large language model like Llama, Llama 2, Llama 3, Llama 3.1, and so on. Then you need a vector database. A vector database, we'll talk about it. So you build, call it your retrieval engine or your search engine, right? So and then basically that is needed. You need embeddings, an embedding model. How do you convert your text or the objects that you're trying to search? How do you convert them into and push them into vector database? Then there is semantic caching, right? So when you how do you reduce the cost by setting up LLM caches? Then you talk about your day-to-day or most routine tasks. How do you connect your LLM application to Office 365? How do you connect it to Dropbox? How do you create templates for prompts? How do you create chains? What if you want your next query to be connected to the previous query? The concept of memory. Then how do you create multi-agent systems? All of that. We mostly rely on LangChain. LangChain is by far the most popular framework there. But you will see other things as well, but primarily that is going to be LangChain. Then once you have built an application, if you're an enterprise application, you need to monitor your application. You need to know what kind of prompts are coming in, how many tokens are being consumed, and then what kind of queries are coming in, and whether the responses are consistent with your policy. Call them guardrails. I mean, how do you put guardrails on your model? How do you deploy the model? If it is a ChatGPT-like application, how do you deploy it? And we teach everything what I'm talking about at the bootcamp, and I am going to show you show you all the details. I think there is one more slide I should. I'm sorry, I should actually mention. So because I hear this question about working knowledge of Python programming is a prerequisite. And even if you don't know Python programming, we have had people who did not know Python programming, and you will see what I mean when I say that you don't need to know Python programming as much. And if you don't know Python programming, the amount of Python programming that you need to actually be able to attend the bootcamp, we'll send you pre-bootcamp tutorials in the learning platform with the right resources that you will get you ready for the bootcamp. And in general, a background and interest, and you have some understanding of what you want to do after the bootcamp. And this is a technology stack that you will, at different places in the bootcamp, will touch upon all of these at some point in time, and you will understand where do all of these actually lie in the ecosystem. And then, of course, is it a complete technology stack? It could be, Llama 2, it could be Llama 3, it could be a different, it could be Mistral model. Does it have to be MongoDB? No, it could be Postgres VectorDB, PG Vector as they call it, right? Does it have to be Arise? No, it could be a different tool for guardrails. So the idea is that we will teach you what is the relative place of everything. What does it take to build a complete application? And then if your company uses a different specific tool, you can simply replace the tool in the stack, and you will be fine. Let me go and show you how what the entire curriculum is. So we start with at the very beginning of the training, we start with a complete understanding, the first 3 hours. So before you come in, we'll send you some tutorials. We'll make sure that you're ready for the training. Maybe if you already know Python programming, there's nothing to worry about. And no, you don't have to be a rock star Python coder as long as you understand how to read and maybe understand what the basic Python syntax. You'll be fine, and I will show you why I think you'll be fine. But when you come in at the bootcamp, the first 3 hours of the bootcamp, the first pre-lunch session. So the bootcamp happens in Seattle in person, but people can attend. Some people, half of the attendees are actually remote, and they are attending session remotely. Half of the attendees are in person in Seattle at in our training location in Seattle. But people have attended, people have traveled all the way from Australia, Middle East, etc. Right? So people have come all the way from far away places, South America, Europe. And then similarly, people are who are attending remotely, they attend from wherever they are. So once everyone comes in the first 3 hours, what we do is we will give you a complete overview of the entire ecosystem. So by the end of the first 3-ish hours, you will understand it very well. What does it mean? What is prompt engineering? What is an LLM? How does an LLM work? How do you customize an LLM? What is fine tuning? What is in context learning? What is retrieval augmented generation? What is a vector database, and what is an embedding, and what is a guardrail? Why do you need a guardrail? So within the first 3 hours, you have a very, I would say, a fairly decent understanding of what the entire ecosystem looks like. And then after the first 3 hours, then we start diving deeper into the respective components. So the first 3 hours, you're all set. You understand the entire ecosystem at a very high level. You can reason why something exists. And then now after that, you start diving deeper into the respective components. We will get into the business of, for instance, embeddings, and we get in a lot of detail into embeddings. the transformer architecture, the attention mechanism, encoder-decoder architecture, why embeddings, and a very layperson's view initially, and then getting into the more nuanced aspects of embeddings. This module, this attention mechanism and transformers, this is taught by Luis Serrano, probably one of the best people out there. And when it comes to AI and machine learning education, I start with the bootcamp, the first 3 hours, entire end-to-end view. Then we go to Luis. Luis teaches about embeddings. And then for everything that we do, we have a practical exercise. Let me give you an example. For instance, when we go to vector databases, so we have Zan from VV8. Zan actually teaches this session. And this is no fluff introduction to vector databases. By the end of this 2 to 3 hours of presentation, you will completely understand, why vector databases are used, how do they help, what is semantic search, what is keyword search, what is hybrid search. If you look at this, we start very simply. Well, how are they similar to vector databases? How are they, similar to your traditional SQL or relational databases? How are they similar to your vector database or the NoSQL databases? Then we talk about vector searches, and you can see that this is a huge long module. I'm showing this here as an example. If you keep going, how are searches performed? And now, if you have billions of embeddings in your vector database, how do you actually optimize the embeddings so you can have a sub-millisecond retrieval? So we talk about this indexing and retrieval efficiency techniques. If you look at this, we are going into a lot of detail. Whatever is needed for you to understand how to optimize your search index. You can see different scenarios. Now, let me see. Let me just show a few more things here. Hybrid search, for instance. Now, this slide is talking about hybrid search, right? But that's not it. When we are done with this presentation, we'll come back. And if you look at this, there is actually an exercise on hybrid search. So once the presentation ends, you are going to go through, how do you do a vector search? How do you similarity search, hybrid search, generative search, and vector compression? And you will know what vector compression is. How do you do semantic caching? And you will know what semantic caching means. Now, if you look at this, we have already given you a VV8 server. You will be getting a vector database already. We'll give you the OpenAI API keys. And if you look at this now, you're creating a collection, you're importing the data, we are showing you how to import that. How do you do hybrid searches? And then if you look at this, there are different kind of searches, and people plug in, different kind of concepts here. They try to actually understand what does it mean to build a vector search engine. Then maybe let me see, there could be another example here. So all these examples, now, if you look at this, you do not need to set anything up on your local machine. A lot of times, hey, if I install this, and now instead of doing this exercise, sometimes people get stuck in, I cannot install this package, and hey, IT does not allow me, my company's IT policies that you cannot install this or that, right? So for everyone, we give them this labs. You can click on this, you open the labs, you run these labs, you have the API keys, you have the servers deployed, and you're basically running run here. And if you prefer to run it locally, you're more than welcome to download it locally. And if you are somewhat more experienced in Python and setting up your Python virtual environments and all of that, you're more than welcome to download and run it locally. But we want to create this. We want to create this uniform consistent experience, so people do not actually waste time in setting things up and infrastructure related ideas. I will maybe run one of the notebooks to show you. You can see that we have semantic search. We will talk about a lot of nuances of RAG, right? So building, many of you are here. Likely you have heard of retrieval augmented generation. If you have not, you will understand it inside out very well. Then let me show you. We have a separate module here for LangChain. So when we asked you, for instance, right? So how do you, let's say, how do you build chains in LangChain, right? So let me go here. If I click on this now, we will discuss why simple sequential chains are needed, why summarization chains are needed, and when I click on this, it will open up this lab. And let me actually grab my OpenAI key here. All of you will get some OpenAI credit that you can use during the bootcamp. And even if you run out, of course, within certain limit. But if you run out of credit, I mean, we replenish the credit. So we got you, we've got you covered there. But if you look at this now, we've talked about why do you need simple sequential chains, and now how do you run this simple sequential chain? So what does it mean? Now you need the API key, so I will copy and paste. I hope it is still working. Now we explain what is an LLM chain, what is prompt template. You already know it from a previous session. We explain what a simple sequential chain is, and now this is an example of a chain. Simply put, a chain is when you want your query to be handled in 2 steps instead of single steps. So basically, you're making 2 LLM calls. And you already, by now, you know what does it mean to have a different model name. You already know what does temperature do to your model. So basically, we'll run it. And if you can see, I did not run it. Let me actually go and run this cell again. And you can see that it is not some hand waving, right? So, and that's not how you can learn to build applications. This is some real stuff, and you are seeing everything in action. Then someone might say, "Hey, let's change it to this," and people, when people see this, fun things happening, they actually will start to, hey, why don't we do this? And this Mars is, for instance, right? For instance, so what? Let me explain it to you so you can get a sense of what goes on in an actual session, right? So this is a chain. So what that will happen is, let's say you build this UI. It's a food recipe recommender, right? And then basically the user comes in and they input a location, and this. Using OpenAI, you will recommend a dish in the first part of the chain. Then in the second part of the chain, you are, once it has found the dish, it will recommend a recipe. And the third part of it is actually what is a dessert that goes with that meal. So it first executes the first part of the LLM, then the second part of the LLM call, and the third part of the LLM call. And now you can see that I have defined my overall chain. First, run the location chain, followed by the meal chain, and followed by the dessert chain. And this is your LangChain expression language. I think they call it LCL or LCEL. So you will understand all of this. And now going back to the idea, do you need Python or not? Python is slightly more difficult to read than English language. I mean, most people can make sense out of it as long as you're committed and you watch the tutorial before you come in. If you're not making any changes, you're a technical product manager, maybe you're a founder who's not very technical, you're a manager or who has consultants coming in and building things for you, this will give you a very good idea. Or you're just curious. You want to know what is going on. You're a researcher, right? So you want to see, hey, what does the entire ecosystem look like? We have had people from across different backgrounds, and I have never seen anyone who had difficulty due to coding because, well, you're running, but I have to be very, very honest and candid here. This is not a coding bootcamp. You are not going to be a Python expert as a result of this bootcamp. You will understand the entire ecosystem. If you're already a good developer, you will definitely be able to build LLM applications. But if you've never been a developer ever in your life, you will understand the entire ecosystem of LLM applications. How do you build an LLM application? But you won't be able to build LLM applications on your own, even though we'll show you, you will have your own working application, but that will be based on the boilerplate code. Building an enterprise LLM application, it is non-trivial. You have to have years of experience understanding the different trade-offs in cloud computing, caching, and deployment and CI/CD. So it is much more difficult. So if you are a technical product manager, by the end of this bootcamp, you will be an awesome, amazing LLM technical product manager. If you are a great dev, you will be a great LLM application developer. Whatever you are, add that LLM prefix to it, you will remain that. But you are not going to be suddenly you're going to not transform into an LLM application developer as a result of the bootcamp, even though you have never coded in your life. So let's set the expectations right. But coding should not be a barrier at all. Coding will not be a barrier. We have seen it. As long as your end goal is clear in your mind. Let's keep going. And when I run this, and now you can see that I can plug in anything. I can plug in any location. So it first goes in this chain. We actually understand how many, if you look at this, how many tokens were used, prompt tokens, and what was the output. If you look at this, Martian mushrooms too, it is making stuff up using the sense of humor. But if I just go and use, let's say, London, and run it again, this chain again, you can see that it will recommend something else. It is calling the OpenAI APIs in real time. I've never seen anything other than fish and chips when I click on when I enter London. I don't know why, but maybe that's how it is. For other locations, sometimes it will give different variations of things. But you can now see that you completely understand it. Even you're a technical product manager, even you're a program manager, project manager who's going to manage LLM projects. You don't know coding, it's fine. And then we talk about when would you use a simple sequential chain. We'll talk about when would you use a router chain. Once we are done with this, then we'll go to, let me see, summarization chain. And when we talk about why do you need a summarization chain, just the LangChain module, it takes us like 6 to 8 hours to finish. It's a very, very in-depth module. So you can see, I cannot, of course, show all the samples here. Within LangChain, we talk about memory, we talk about agents, we talk about multi-agents, we talk about LangGraph, which is something more, how do multiple agents coordinate with each other? We talk about LangGraph as well. So fairly comprehensive treatment, fairly hands-on treatment, even for those who don't plan to write code or don't plan to implement things. We still insist that everyone runs through these labs so they understand. I actually am a big believer. We are actually looking for a technical product manager for a product that we have built, and we are having a hard time finding and filling this position for a technical product manager for LLMs, because even if, first of all, finding a good product manager itself is hard, but even if you find a good product manager, having someone who has this understanding of, the kind of things that are needed, it is hard. So, and the bootcamp will actually get you ready with all of those aspects. Going back to the main bootcamp curriculum, we talk about RAG, we talk about domain-specific model, we talk about small language models, we talk about guardrails and monitoring and all the tracing and etc. Observability, as we call it. We have fine-tuning. When we talk about fine tuning, we talk about, for instance, maybe I can expand on this. So we are not just going to say, hey, let's go and fine tune a model, right? So we'll start with the foundations of fine tuning. We talk about transfer learning and how is it different from fine tuning, and what does fine tuning in general mean. Then we'll talk about quantization. What does it mean to have a quantized model? We explain what quantization means. Then we'll talk about LoRa, low rank adaptation. Algebraically, what does it mean? Mathematically, what does it mean? Not something too mathematical, but at least give you the intuition. Then we talk about, the aspects, what could go wrong. I mean, for instance, models. If we don't fine tune properly, the models can forget what they already know. How do you prevent that forgetting? We talk about that, and then we give you a GPU cluster. Everyone gets their own GPU cluster. We take a base Llama 2 model, and then we also take we fine tune it and see how the fine tuned responses are different from the model that has not been fine tuned. If I'm missing anything, evaluation, I should have mentioned. Evaluation, how do you evaluate a model? So I will make two statements. How do you evaluate a model? Or how can I evaluate a model? Or how is a model evaluated? So all of these are semantically the same, but maybe lexically in terms of keywords, they are not the same. So there are actually formal frameworks that are emerging for evaluation. So we start with your some of the standard language translation type metrics. We start with those, but then we work our way into something more formalized. I mean, we have things like RAGAS that actually is more specific to evaluating RAG applications as opposed to just an LLM or machine translation applications. So you can see that in every case, what we'll do here is the same thing. Now you have built this model. How do you evaluate it? And then all of these are non-trivial discussions, very intense discussions that happen. But of course, everyone is collaborating, everyone is discussing, and so on. Then we also talk about deploying the model. And then eventually on the last day, we are going to teach you how to deploy your own application, and all of you, everyone, will leave with a working deployed LLM application with a URL in Streamlit Cloud. So let me see, and I will address the question. I know there is plenty of questions out there, so I've already talked about this. Let me just make sure that I'm not missing anything. Advanced RAG. We spent quite a bit of time on RAG. This is just too much content for me to actually cover in the information session. I've already been talking for 40 minutes. So this is our line of instructors. Usually, I'm not sure if Jerry is going to be there. Just to be clear, I'm not sure if Jerry is going to be there next time, but the rest of them are confirmed. I usually teach in every bootcamp, but the rest of them are confirmed, and we will confirm with other folks. These are our partners, right? So, and our partners actually love us. You can see that we have these are major players in this space. And if you're wondering if any other companies have attended, this is only a sample of the companies from all over the world who have traveled to attend this bootcamp, right? So we have a stellar reputation. People go back and they send more people, right? So and we have been doing this. We've started doing enterprise trainings on building these applications. The same bootcamp has been offered as an enterprise training as well. So our next bootcamp is happening on from 21st to 25th of October. And I'm very confident that anyone who actually comes in, by the time when they go back, they are ready to build real applications. With that, let me go to the questions that have been asked. Okay, SN, thank you for your comment. If you are the SN that I know, thank you. Uh, then, Shireen, is there going to be a recording for this session that will be sent out? Yes, you will be sent a recording, and the recordings are going to be on on our LinkedIn channel and the YouTube channel. It is going to be there. Let me see. Presentation. I think there is a form that you need to fill out. We'll send you the presentation if you need the presentation. Do we use Anaconda or Spider to run this code? I do not know because, so Hamza, this question is from you. Uh, I mean, tools don't matter, frankly. I mean, it is the business value that you get out of it. I mean, if you understand how to run this code on our Jupyter in our Jupyter Notebook environment, well, you can run it in Anaconda. But we are not going to teach you Anaconda and how to set up Anaconda because that's beyond the scope of this class. That's Python. That's basically your Python IDE. We don't waste any time on IDs because that's something that you can learn. Like there's a million other places, but there is only one place in the world at this point right now that can teach you what we are teaching. It's, as I said, deeplearning.ai and other places, Coursera, Udemy, all those courses, they are either, hey, here is a vector database course, there's an embeddings course, and there is this guardrails course. This is all in one. What you can get on all of those courses, some are too theoretical, some are too practical. We talk about theory, practice, programming, all of it in one place, in 1 week. So there is no context switch. I'm new to LLMs. So Arslan, your question, I'm new to LLMs. Can you suggest resources to kickstart in LLMs? Arslan, it's a tough question to answer, but I mean, if you're looking some free resources, I think I would mention deep learning AI. That's a very good place to start. I mean, I would recommend if you're looking for some free resources, of course, if you're looking for paid training, a more complete training, well, we are there, but and there is Andre Karpathy's YouTube channel. That would be a great place to actually look at. But I think off top of my mind, these are the only two resources that come in that are free and that are high quality. And make sure that because there are people, there are when there is an economic opportunity, we witnessed this in the previous machine learning wave when that started. Anyone who has a PowerPoint, who can make PowerPoint deck and has access to some papers or some YouTube tutorials, they start teaching. But I cannot recommend too many of them. I will only recommend one of the bootcamp or one or two of the resources under Karpathy's channel, and of course deep learning AI. They are good, high quality ones. Then another question: why don't we use AWS or Azure Cloud Platform for deployment? Because it does not matter. Hamza, I don't know what career stage you are at, but the platform that we use, the tool that we use, actually, they don't matter. We focus on the skill and the problem-solving skills, more importantly, than the specific tool. We use the tools that save us time and that get the point across. You should be able to actually do a cloud deployment on your own if you understand how we teach it. For how long will you have access to the final deployed LLM application? We will, and this is probably connected to the previous question. It is a question by Nigist or Nigist. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. It is be deployed in a free Streamlit cloud. And maybe, Hamza, I now understand your question. AWS or Azure Cloud, because they are not free. And we deploy it to the free Streamlit cloud. And if you're willing to, use your credit card, you can also deploy it in Azure or AWS or any other place. But and you have, I don't know what is the policy We use a third-party Streamlit cloud. You use your own account. You create your own GitHub, repository. You push it to GitHub. From GitHub, you push it to Streamlit. So I think you have access to it indefinitely because we don't control it. Okay, let me see. What are some other questions? Okay, and there is Prad. Your question is everything taught from scratch, or is this for people with already existing coding experience? And that's a tough question. So I think anyone who does not have coding experience can easily actually do it as long as they have the right problem-solving skills, because potentially some people who already write code, they may struggle. It's not a function of whether you know coding or not. It is just what expectations you are bringing in. So you don't have to have an existing coding experience in Python. But if you have never written, interacted with technology at all, you've never written any SQL query, if you've never written any MATLAB or R or any kind of code, then probably I would recommend that you talk to us before you attend, because it might be difficult. It depends upon what you're trying to do, but you must know what coding is. You must have coded in, if not in Python, maybe in C or C++, or maybe Fortran, or SQL, VBA, just something must be there. But if you don't even know what coding is, you will understand the theory side of it, but it would be hard. But as long as you have written code in any language in the past, SQL included, if you consider that to be a programming language, you'll be fine. Okay. Are there any other questions, anyone? I will take a look at my chat window here. Okay, all right then. If there are no additional questions, we will end this information session. Please feel free to reach out to us. Just set up a call, and we will be more than happy to actually guide you and understand what your objectives are, and we'll try to help you whether this bootcamp is the right bootcamp for you or not. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope to see some of you at the bootcamp.